Welcome to this UFC 310 main card prediction video. Please let me know what you guys think in the comments down below this prediction, and what you guys think of the card coming up, and who do you think is going to win. What underdog have you got coming out on top? So getting straight into the main card, Nate Landwehr versus Doo Ho Choi. Slight reach advantage for Nate Landwehr there. Good KO last time for Doo Ho Choi, but Nate is, I think, the next level above. I think Nate Landwehr will pressure well. I think it's the Dan Ige fight, shows a good level. I think that's only improved as times went on with Dan Ige's career after that point. The win there. The stocks definitely went up. That's clear. Dan Ige has got some good wins under his belt and is continuing at a good level going forward. I think both leave themselves open to get countered, and that is the only problem with this fight. I think it could go either way. I think I would go with Nate Landwehr, but I would never say it's impossible. They leave themselves way open a lot. Nate Landwehr will pressure, which can cause even more openings to be open there when he rushes forward, sometimes leaving himself very open, but also Doo Ho Choi leave himself open as well. So it's a bit of a who's going to get countered, who's going to get caught with an opening first. I do feel like this is all the point is that who's got the better chin, who do I think gets hit and doesn't get knocked out, because I think both will have chances. I think Nate doesn't get knocked out, and I think Doo Ho Choi does. I go for Nate Landwehr getting this done by KO TKO. I think both leave themselves open. I wouldn't be surprised if either got caught and knocked out. But overall, I think Nate Landwehr pressuring. I think he's been caught on the chin. His chin stayed quite good. He didn't get put out or anywhere stumbly. He can take a few good shots, and I think that helps him in this fight. And I mean, it's whoever, really, you leave yourself open. Whoever's got the better chin out of them two is going to win. I think Nate gets that done. On to the next fight, Bryce Mitchell versus Gracie. Mitchell, last fight, bad loss to Josh Emmett. Obviously a bad KO, very heavy KO. One punch and he's gone, and the sound of it was incredible, and I think went quite viral for UFC clips of him getting hit there. But before that, if we take Josh Emmett out of it, he was a top level guy. He got a decision against Ige, which was very high rated, and I rate that even higher now than I did back then. Gracie has lost against Jourdain by decision. I think that's difficult to come back and I just put on my notes here to come back and fight a guy who's I would say getting towards the top 5 level of Bryce Mitchell was. Josh Emmett beats him or gets a decision there. I think he's definitely top 5. I think it'll be tough for Gracie to get into this fight very well. I think Mitchell's looking to prove something. I think that doesn't help Gracie at all. I think Mitchell needs a win against a lower level guy. I think this is. Josh Emmett's definitely higher level than Gracie. And I think the confidence will come back. I think Mitchell needs to get a win. I think that's the only point with Gracie is that, look, Mitchell will be looking for a win and looking for an early stoppage, but I think my point is, look, which way does that help Mitchell? I think he does he maybe rush? I don't think Mitchell's like that. Do I think he lacks confidence currently after getting knocked out like that? Yes, I think there's a slight hesitation maybe about letting a hand go or moving or letting something open without a full guard up, and there always will be with every fighter. And how much does that affect Mitchell? I think it affects Mitchell a bit more than you would hope as someone in his camp. But look, he's done incredibly well in his career. He's done incredibly well against Barboza. Pressured till get something out. I think that's it. I think he's just got to pressure. I think he's going to be very careful. Don't get caught in some some ground game, keep it on the feet, because you do incredibly well against, Josh Emmett beat you, but look, you can do incredibly well on the feet. Barboza showed that. If you pressured them up against the cage and just stop that movement and just wait for Gracie to do something, you'll get a great counter on him. And that's how you start it. Once he starts getting rocked, I don't know how much he's going to have in that offense where you can actually go, look, I can start making something happen here and look more dominant. I think that's the point. He's got to catch him with something and then set himself and be ready for, look, I'm ready to counter, but also I'm going to let my hands go more because I know I'm just that inch faster now. He's been hurt. I think decision by Mitchell. I don't see him getting him out of there, but I think it's a good fight for Mitchell to get back on the horse after a bad KO and to move forward now. Back to where, the projection was looking at, he did incredibly well in some fights, so I think he's definitely higher level than Gracie. Gracie coming up, and he could prove me wrong, but look, I think Mitchell has this in this fight, and it gets it done by decision. On to the next fight, Gane versus Volkov. Volkov doing very well, coming through the Tom Aspinall loss in March 2023 to have a great run at heavyweight, beating many, many people, and really getting to basically near the top. I don't think he could beat Tom Aspinall, but if he beats Gane here, he's second in that division. Without John Jones, and I think John Jones will be up and around there, but he's definitely top 3 in that division below Tom Aspinall. And Gane, look, he's coming back. I believe he's been making films and things in France. Hadn't been fighting since the John Jones loss in March 2022. March 23 that was. March 22 was the last loss for Volkov. But again, to be 2023 March loss against John Jones, really you haven't been that active. You're way over a year and a half, if not nearly 2 years now, outside the cage. It's getting tough. I think it's getting tough that look, Volkov's been active. Activity shows throughout the history of the UFC. Activity helps. Being in that cage, not just training, doing other things like films and things like that don't help you. Stay active in the cage and be at your best. And I think Volkov, that's going to show. Look, Gane back in the day when he was active and fighting, and there wasn't all these other things that he could A, earn money from, B, earn a lot of money from, and not get hit in the face. It's sort of that, less so, but it's that Conor McGregor. Once you start finding stuff outside the UFC, why are you getting back in that cage? Sort of like Gane's coming back, it's a big fight. He probably wants to get back into the fight game, but to be honest with you, I think Volkov beats him purely around that. Volkov's got better, of course he has, but the activity and the confidence he has coming in will help him so much. Gane, fast guy, very good movement at heavyweight, but to be honest, the inactivity is not going to help that, especially when you rely on your speed so much and your movement so much. Doing these films and other activities outside the UFC do not help. Make sure your everyday training, to be honest, when you're making a film and things, there is no way your sole focus is the UFC and becoming the heavyweight champion. It's just not. And look, Volkov has that dedication, has had many fights, is on a long win streak. I think it really benefits Volkov to take this fight, and the fact he's had a long layoff Gane, I think that just gives the confidence even more to Volkov, and my confidence for Volkov to get this done. I think he's so much improved. He's got confidence going in. I think that's just a winning mentality to get that. I think he's going to get a KO TKO over Gane. I think it's going to be a scary thing where it just shows Gane's missing half a second and he just gets caught when trying to move like he used to. I think he just does get caught. On to the next fight, on to the co-main event, RAKHMONOV versus Gary. RAKHMONOV, obviously, look, I've spoken many times about him, a great level of fighter. Overall game is amazing. And just to be honest, even the natural aspects of Rakhmonov. He's a big guy. He has a weight for the class. He has the length. He's good on the feet. He's good on the ground. And I think that stand-up's getting better. But he has got that ground game where he gets people down and does very well. And look, I do believe he'll go for a title shot very soon. He was meant to have won this fight, but he didn't actually. It got postponed, or not postponed, but got cancelled because of a broken toe. But due to that injury, he has to now fight Ian Gary. I think if he wins this, he gets a title shot. I think that's part of the clause. Look, I take it, but I definitely get a title shot. And if something happens again, he vacates, and I get, I fight for the title no matter what. And I think that's fair enough. I think that I'm hoping that's the way it's been spun to make Rakhmonov still fight, because otherwise it's a bit of a, he's taking a risk here. He needs that title shot if he does win, for sure, no matter if the champion's injured or not. Great run against Thompson, and the submission just show a method of victory that just helps him. If something goes wrong on the feet, he has an ace to switch it up. Ian Gary, not so much. I think that's a problem in this fight. I think over the amount of rounds they've got, I think he's a 5-rounder. I think that's going to be a tough one to call, where you go, Ian Gary's just got, out of the two, Rakhmonov has more items to go at. He can get you to the ground and do very well. And if stuff starts getting tough early on, he can get it to the ground and sort of just make you work. That's the key one. Make you work and just cause you to fatigue slightly, so you lose half a second. And that can just be the difference. He's got a 77-inch reach compared to an Ian Gary at 74. I mean, that's a decent length advantage to allow him. Look, he may not be faster, but that reach just helps him. He can be out that way. He's got an extra 3 inches where Gary can't hit you, but he can hit. That's a big one where, look, you don't need to be faster. Sometimes you just need to have an extra bit of reach, and that counters it totally. I think that helps also with getting takedowns against Ian Gary. I think he can slip easier than other opponents that, Ian Gary's quite tall. We've got a good reach. I think it just allows him to get out of the way of certain stuff from Ian Gary early and get it to the ground. I think that's the key bit. Rakhmonov, get it to the ground and just show him what happens. I think Rakhmonov doesn't do that, though. I think he does try to stand up. I think he does realise quite quickly, hopefully, that Ian Gary's a good fighter. He's a good fighter on the feet. He does very well on the feet. And look, that's not the place you want to have him. You've got to be smart, and especially if you're going for a title shot next, you've got to be smart. If it doesn't matter how you win, if you win, that's the point. You get him down, you submit him, you're making an easy night for yourself. You don't muck around with getting caught, getting clipped, and suddenly you're back another 3 months before you can fight again. Look, you want to be back in there saying, I want a title shot now. Look, I think it's a tough one on the feet. I think Gary wins it on the feet, but I think Rakhmonov just has so much more in the locker, where he's so much better on the ground, where, look, Rakhmonov can have sort of a bit of success, or at least avoid the problems on the feet, especially with that reach advantage. It just gives him the advantage to manage to get it to the ground at some point, which I think he will. I think it's very tough for Gary to stay on his feet for that long throughout the whole fight, and I think if it does get to start getting to the ground, Ian Gary has to rush stuff on the feet, which just doesn't support not getting taken down. So I think, look, Rakhmonov gets a submission. I think he gets him down quite early, round 1 or 2, and then Ian Gary has to try to run through him on the feet, and just gets taken down, and it's just not a good look. He's out of breath, he's tired, and suddenly Rakhmonov sinks in a submission that he's so happy to do against opponents and so good at. It's an incredible part of his game, and incredible fighter who I think, look, he's scary. I think he's very scary, and any champion should be scared going against him, because I think, to be honest with you, if I had to bet on anyone in this division becoming the next champion, it would be Rakhmonov at this point in time. So let me know what you think on that fight. That's one I think, is going to be a great one to show a true, and even if Ian Gary wins, that brings him up. That's a name on Ian Gary's record. For either of them, it's a huge name that gets some sort of a. Look, if Ian Gary wins this against RAKHMONOV, who was going to get a title shot, sort of calls into is Ian Gary getting a title shot next? So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Next fight and the main event, Pantoja versus Ashikora. I think it's tough. I think, Pantoja, we know the level he's at. He's a champion. He's beaten a load of guys. He's very good. I think he's very good on the ground as well. I think that's a key point which I'll come back to. Ashikora is great fighter, but we don't know the level. Who is he fought? What level are they in terms of the UFC? It's very hard, especially in MMA, to go, look, would he beat him? Would he not? He's a big guy. I think he's a big guy for the division. And I think that helps him a bit. I think it helps him keep it at a bit of distance so the takedowns don't come in as easily. But it's tough. I think it's tough to say that, look, the reach will allow him to stop the takedowns for over 5 rounds. I think over a 5-round fight, Pantoja's has been fighting that long in 5-rounders, beating an amazing high level of opponent. It's tough for me to say against a Pantoja win. I think the reach helps. I think he's done it over 5 rounds. He's got the advantage on the ground. We don't know the level for Ashikora to come into the UFC, and what level is he at. I think the only partially thing is he's a big guy for the division, especially against Pantoja, but doesn't have the ground game. We don't know the level. Could be there. I think the UFC, if the UFC had to ask someone to win, I think the reason they're getting him in and giving a title shot straight away is because they want him to win. They want him to be a title holder because it gives them a new market in the world of MMA and UFC. A UFC champion, take the title to Asia, where to be honest, we haven't got anyone in MMA who's really at that pinnacle of title shot at the minute, except from Ashikora just being signed. So I think that's a good thing where they can start doing more and more events in Asia, which is a big market. I fully expect it's a huge market where they aren't tapping into it yet. Not that they would explicitly say that that's the reason they're giving title shot, but look, there's reasons why they tried to sign him. If he was in the UK or in the US, for example, where the market is very, look, they've got a huge amount of fans. There isn't really markets that are untapped by the UFC already, that people don't know about the UFC or care about the UFC, for example. That would, if there was a fighter from their city or something there. But I think that's what this gives the UFC. I think it gives them an option to go, look, this makes paydays in Asia. When we put events there, I think that's the big thing. Why, look, they have to have champions in certain areas to go, look, that's the market we haven't tapped into, but if we have a champion there, it will sell out an arena, and so we can do a UFC event there. In America, they know they can do UFC events because it will sell. And in the UK, you've got enough champions and things there that it will sell again. So I think that's what, part of the reason. I think he's a good fighter anyway. I don't think he's a stupid below level for a champion shot. I think he probably is top 5 in that division. At least, in that's just a guess, but from what I've seen, he's top 5. A big guy against Pantoja, but Pantoja's dealt with a disadvantage in reaching things throughout his career, especially in 5-rounders. So I don't see this giving him a major problem. I think Ashikora shows a good enough amount of himself to go, look, I'm not out of the question of getting a title shot, but I think there is a bit of a disparity. And Pantoja wins this. I think it actually could be a KO TKO. I think, to be honest, he gets him down for a couple of rounds. Ashikora starts having to rush for it, and Pantoja just gets him. gets on the inside and catches him with something big when he just rushes in. And I think he is later on. I think Eshiko has success in the fight, which gives him a bit of a look. Fair play, you've come into here and done your best. But I do think Pantoja gets this done. Like and subscribe, please. Really helps me out. And let me know what you guys thought and think of this fight. I think, look, Rakhmonov's going to have a great day at the office. And I think, to be honest, the other fight is that, look, Volkov really going to show up that he's at top heavyweight now. And look, if he wins this, top 2. If Garn wins this, top 2. Without Jones, with Jones, top 3. And look, that they just, I think it causes this fight causes more of a problem for Tom Aspinall. The UFC, Tom Aspinall as well. If Volkov wins, look, Tom Aspinall's beating him. Who does Tom Aspinall fight? John Jones lays it up. Volkov again? Whereas Garn fights again, wins. Okay, there's a title championship fight there while we wait to see what happens with John Jones. So, yeah, look, that's what the UFC's probably wanting to not hold up the division. But again, they need to sort out this Tom Aspinall situation at some point and understand what Jones wants to do next, because they cannot hold up the heavyweight division for much longer. Because, to be honest, it is a premier division. Everyone wants to see the heavyweight fights. There's the most knockouts. And look, without that huge star of, for example, a McGregor or a John Jones or stuff, they've got to start building up other names, which would be like your Tom Aspinall and, for example, your Garn in that heavyweight division, because I think you've got a lacking of top, no matter where they go, their name will sell out our arena no matter who they're fighting or whatever. So, yeah, look, that's the key thing. They've lost Sean O'Malley as well. That's another big one for them, where Sean O'Malley lost. It doesn't help him, but they need to start developing these champions. It very like the heavyweights. At heavyweight, light heavyweight, they need names with John Jones going. They've got Alex Pereira, they've got Tom Aspinall, but until they make a super fight with either them two together, or John Jones, Alex Pereira, John Jones, Tom Aspinall, I think it's going to be tough for them to... They need to firstly sort out the championship situation in heavyweight, but I think there's some super fights there that will make a great event for people. But look, they need to understand Garn, Tom Aspinall gives probably them a bit more time to allow John Jones to realise what he wants to do in the future. But please let me know also what you think of that situation after this fight. Obviously, that's going to be the big questions after this fight. Are they going to fight Tom Aspinall for the title next? And what's happening with John Jones? So we'll see what happens in the post-fight interview for them, that heavyweight fight. But like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.